Hello, I'm Susan Cadeau. Thank you for being with us. 80 years ago this month, the United States enacted legislation that would change the economic well-being of almost every American. By 1937, 53,000 people were getting benefits through Social Security. The breadth and depth of the nation's income insurance program may have many speculating about what retirement will look like for future generations.
80 years ago, the United States was in the midst of the Great Depression. The unemployment rate was more than 20%. To help reduce the widespread poverty in 1935, President Franklin Roosevelt implemented what he called the New Deal. In August of that year, Roosevelt signed into law the Social Security Act, which was created to provide income insurance for workers over the age of 65. Jose Olivero is the public affairs specialist for the Social Security Administration in Oklahoma.
Before 1935, there was just simply nothing in the United States. You had to work until you died or one of your kids took you in. And so Social Security lifted many people out of poverty, and is still doing it today.
In 1935, the average wage was $1,600 a year. The average house rent was $22 a month, and a loaf of bread cost 8 cents. Life expectancy was also shorter, which meant that many workers who made it to retirement age collected only a few years of benefits. Today, that's not the case.
Life expectancy back in the 30s was 65, and that's where we started. And people are living to the 80s, 90s. It's not unusual to see people living, to 100 years old or more on a daily basis. So that had put some strains on the Social Security system.
Today, 60 million people receive Social Security retirement benefits. Without it, what would life be like?
Really bad. I don't know how we'd live.
Linda Williams and her husband Melvin are 72 years old. He started paying into Social Security when he began working full-time at the age of 14. He receives a retirement check from the last company he worked for, but it's not much.
Social Security, I couldn't live on my retirement. But for Social Security, we wouldn't make it.
67-year-old Larry Hurd began drawing Social Security 3 years ago.
We didn't have a retirement or a pension at work. We did have a 401k plan that I contributed to for 30 years, and that was a considerable amount of funds, but it wasn't enough to provide me with the retirement that I wanted.
His wife, Sandra, worked full-time for 20 years to pay for their children's college educations. And while the Hurds say they are financially comfortable, they do without extras like cable television. Unlike these two couples, 65% of people over the age of 65 rely solely on Social Security for their living expenses. Olivero says Social Security was never intended to be the sole source of income for retirees.
Social Security from the beginning was set up to return to you somewhere between 25 and 40% of an average lifelong monthly income. So the average person that retires about 62, early retirement at 62, gets about $1,100 a month.
Olivero says gone are the days when many large employers offered pensions for retired workers.
The reality of today is that less than half of employers today have any kind of retirement available to their employees.
29-year-old Nick Doctor and his wife are already planning for retirement. He says they got a wake-up call when the recession of 2008 began.
So for me, it became very much about planning early and planning as quickly as possible.
Doctor receives financial planning help from his employer.
The consultant that the chamber brings in says anywhere from $3 to $4 million upon retirement to be able to have 70% of the kind of standard income threshold there.
Abby Curran has been in the workforce for 8 years. Planning for retirement has not been on her radar until recently.
Because I was out of school, I never did the retirement plan. So I never put money towards a retirement plan because I thought I'll do it next year. I would always push it off.
Curran can't foresee a day when she's not working. Doctor says Social Security income is not a part of his plan.
My goal is to be able to plan for it not to be there, kind of assume a worst case scenario, and be on a decent path without that.
During the last recession, the Social Security Administration warned Congress that the federal government was paying out more in benefits than it was taking in through payroll deductions. The improving economy has turned things around, but Olivero says the Social Security Trust Fund, set up to ensure full benefits to future retirees, is still being depleted.
By the year 2036, we will get to the point that all the money that is in the trust fund, the extra money, will run out unless something is done by Congress to supplement that.
Olivero says it's imperative that the American workforce start saving for the future now. Statistics show 40% of workers do not have a cent saved for retirement.